I'm changing the organization of the syllabus ever so slightly. We had chapter 11 scheduled for week 6, and I realized it really needed to be here in week 4. So I'm moving chapter 8 to next week and doing chapter 11 here. Chapter 11 deals with document and web design. You may wonder why document and web design is in the same category. Well, like everything else, it's organization, making sure that we organize our material in such a manner that our reader will understand them. You want to make a good impression on readers, help them to understand the hierarchy and the structure. Help your readers to find the information that they need, and help readers to understand the information that you're providing, and indeed help the readers to be able to remember the information you're providing. There are 4 basic principles of design. Proximity. How easy is it to decide on what's here? We need to make sure that we have alignment. Everything is set up in such a manner that it's easy to find. Repeat things. Those of you who've taken speech class remember the basic rule for giving speeches. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. That's your basic principle of web design, making sure that we're repeating our information enough that the reader will understand. And make sure that there is contrast. Have a look at the information that the author provided in the textbook companion site, and there's a lot of information, for example, about colors, and yellow's a terrible color to use for web design. It doesn't stand out well. Proximity shows you how the information is placed in so that it makes it easy for the reader to understand, and also easy to find what they're looking for. Alignment organizes this image. You can see it. This one talks about the various floors, but then it also allows you to look at the basic information, and once you do it, you can follow, you can go on to the next section within that chapter. Repetition organizes your information so that it emphasizes it to the reader so that they'll understand what's going on. Those of you who can remember in various classes, if you look at something once, it goes into your short-term memory. If you can look at something 3 or more times, it actually makes it into long-term memory, which is where you can actually find things. Our short-term memory can only hold about 7 items, so obviously you need to make sure that your reader understands. Contrast, good choice of colors makes it stand out better, and also the spacing. When you are planning your design, analyze your audience, analyze your purpose, determine your resources, what you have available to you and what you can do. Keep in mind, often there are things that you and I know because we've been dealing with websites. For example, I was doing a website for church recently, and I needed to create a link, and it turned out that the people who were looking at the website did not understand that when you put the cursor on something and it highlighted that was a link. I actually had to go back and write the word, "This is a link." So again, your audience. For multicultural readers, consider your paper size, your typeface preferences, color preferences, and text direction, the direction that it's going in. When you are putting together your resources, decide how much time have you got? How long do you have to prepare something? How much money can you afford actual professional designers? print shops or web developers, and equipment. Do you have graphics software? And so on. Consider these 4 elements when designing your documents. When you're doing an actual physical document: paper size, the type of paper, how good the paper is going to be, what sort of binding that you want, and aids that will help you find your way through. The 4 types of binding: we have loose leaf binders, we have ring or spiral, we have saddle binding, which is actually where it's stitched, and then there is perfect binding where it is glued together. Consider using these typical access icons. Help find, tabs, color. You may find chapters where each chapter is done in a different color so that it's easy to find it. Dividers and tabs, helpful. Cross-referencing tables so that you can easily find what you're looking for. Headers and footers, page numbering. All these things are part of what help you to organize. Alright, when you are understanding how learning theory relates to page design: chunking, making sure you put all the information in one particular category together in one place. Queuing, lining up things, putting them in an organization that makes sense. And then filtering, helping you to find how to get from point A to point B. Use the following elements when you're creating page layout. Page grids. It's helpful frequently to have exactly the same basic web design for each page. White space is where you leave space, and it's one of those things, if you ever looked at a textbook and it is just absolutely full of text, you look at it and you don't want to read it. Whereas if it's got a few pictures in it, it's got some breaks in the text, it doesn't look as daunting and hard to read, and that's one of the things that you're looking for. Margins, they will help limit the information on your page, making it easier to read and to use. It provides space for binding, allows your readers to hold the page without covering up text, provide a neat frame around, and to provide for marginal glosses. Margins help us to know that this much information will fit onto the text based on the margins that we've got here. A document bound like a book has the following margins. You can see how the right page and the left page are going to be different. Multicolor is helpful. It offers advantages. Text is easier to read because lines are shorter. Columns allow you to fit more information on the page, and columns will let you use the principle of repetition to create a visual pattern. Typography, 7 topics. Typefaces, type families, case, type size, line length, line spacing, and justification. Now keep in mind, if someone is using Microsoft Word, it's going to look in one particular pattern, but if someone is using Apple, it's going to use a different type font. You may have people that are using their cell phones, so as we're looking at the particular format, we'll be able to decide how best to organize. Alright, different typefaces make different impressions. This first paragraph is typed in monotype Corsiva typeface. You're unlikely to see this in technical documents because it's too ornate, it's too hard to read. Times Roman is an effective typeface, and it's often used in technical documents. And then Tahoma, which is a modern high-tech look and is best suited for headings and titles. There are two types of categories. There's serif and sans serif. And if you'll notice here, this one's got little legs on it. That's the serif. And then this one does not, which means sans, without legs. A type family has a lot of variations. There's Helvetica. We have a Helvetica bold. We may have bold in italic. You might have it narrowed, narrow and bold, narrow, bold, italic. We can do different things. It's all the same family of type, but each one is going to look quite different. Case affects readability. Lowercase letters are easier to read. Individual variations are greater in lowercase words than they are in uppercase. You've all heard the expression that when people do things all in uppercase letters, it's the equivalent of screaming. So don't go all uppercase. You don't use it for emphasis. Functions, different type sizes. Footnotes would be 8 to 9. The body text would be 10 to 12. Headings would be 12 to 14. Indexes will be 2 points, like 8, 7 to 9. Titles will be 18 to 24 points, and slides will be done in 24 to 36. Use line spacing carefully when designing headings. In this example, the writer skipped a line between the heading and the text. The next one, they did not do so. The heading stands out, but not as much as the first one. And finally, the third one does not stand out as much as the second. Use design for clarity and emphasis. You might want underlines, you might want boxes, you can have screens, you might have glossy information, or you might put some quotes in there to emphasize. 6 principles that help you design effective websites and pages. Informative headers and footers. Help your reader to be able to navigate the site easily. Include features the readers might need. Make sure your readers can connect with others. And you need to be aware too about designing for disability, and then design for multicultural. The following 5 guidelines will make your site easy to navigate. Your map index, a table of contents. Help your readers get to the top of long pages. You might include a little thing that'll take you back to the top of the page, or you might include something that'll take you back to the home page. Alright, this is a typical site map, and you can see how it's been organized. Alright, this is a typical table of contents, and you can see how the material is offered. We've got our lines to separate the various categories. Include extra features that your readers might need. An FAQ, frequently asked questions, is always a helpful place to have on your page. A search page or an engine if you want to look specifically for the type of car or something of that nature, be able to search that. Resource links, if you look at something and you know that your reader needs to know more information. You might highlight something and it will take you to a section that gives you more information. There's a print version, and then there's a text-only version. All right, consider the following types of disabilities: vision, hearing, and mobility. Use the following suggestions for multicultural common words. Don't use fancy words. Use vocabulary that everybody would be familiar with. Keep your sentences short, 7 to 9 words. Paragraphs no more than 3 to 4 sentences. Look out for idioms. Things that may make perfect sense in your world may not make any sense in another section. And if a large percentage of your readers speak a language other than English, consider creating a version of your site in that language. And you can easily go to Google Translate and it will do that for you. Alright, use the following guidelines. Keep it simple. Use conservative colors. Red's not a good one, it tends to bleed. Avoid decorative graphics. It's nice to have a couple of graphics, but don't have graphics just for the sense of having graphics. And little thumbnails. Alright, 3 suggestions to make it easy to read. Keep your text short, chunk your information in one section, and keep the text as simple as possible. Alright, use these suggestions to make clear, informative links. Structure your sentences as if there are no links in your text. Indicate what information the linked page contains. Use standard colors for text links. And this is just a fairly effective page design. It's easy to follow, good colors. This is also an effective page design. Alright folks, I've included a lesson for you on using the site section that came with our Google Docs, and you might want to just consider using that. If you use the Google Docs, please make it available to everyone, otherwise no one will be able to open it. Alright folks, I hope this helps. Let's go ahead and get started now on our website.